Hello everyone, we have the fifth hero of the Draconis faction, which is Cassius. So like I just said, Cassius is from the new Draconis faction, also an intelligence-based hero. The class is a tank, and the primary role is also a tank. So let's start with the ultimate skill. It is called Ceasefire Decree. As Cassius' scroll spins and rises behind him, it embeds into the ground, marking the area where his allies are clustered and activating equilibrium. This area primarily covers himself and lasts for 8 seconds. Allies within range are granted 20% damage reduction and 20 points of buffer, while Cassius himself is granted 50% damage reduction and 50 points of buffer. And for the level 2, during the equilibrium, allies within the realm recover health every second for 2% of Cassius' health. Cassius himself recovers 5% of his max health every second, and a level 3, for every 4 seconds enemies remain within equilibrium, they are afflicted with 1 stack of indecision. So buffing up the allies and himself, giving them damage reduction and buffer, and the allies and Cassius can also recover health every second when they are in the equilibrium. Also gives the enemies 1 stack of indecision if they remain in equilibrium. So this ultimate skill sounds pretty good. Let's go ahead and move on to the second skill, which is called Diplomatic Maneuver. When Cassius takes fatal damage, he avoids taking the damage and remains immune to subsequent damage for 2 seconds. Enemies within range of Cassius immediately stop fighting for 4 seconds, during which Cassius recovers 10% of his max health per second. This skill can only be triggered once every 15 seconds. And for level 2, for a given period, Cassius' health recovered per second is increased to 15% of his max health. Level 3, it extends the duration to 6 seconds. And level 4, after the period ends, enemies within range are inflicted with 1 stack of indecision. So Cassius will avoid taking fatal damage, which is very powerful. He will also be immune to subsequent damage. Also could be some crowd control with this as well, since the enemies within range of Cassius will stop fighting. Also recovering 10% max health per second, which sounds like a lot of health here. So overall, this also sounds like a pretty good skill. Let's move on to the third skill here, which is called Ancient Insights. Cassius lectures and taunts enemies in their half of the field for 3 seconds. Enemies who are taunted deal 30% less damage to him and are inflicted with 1 stack of indecision for 6 seconds, lowering their accuracy by 15 points and insight by 15 points with each stack. If the same enemy has reached 3 stacks, they cannot add any more stacks, and the duration of indecision will not be refreshed. Level 2, the duration of taunting is increased to 6 seconds. Level 3, each stack of indecision reduces the enemy's accuracy by 30 points and insight by 30 points. And the first engraving skill, when enemies have 3 stacks of indecision, they are unable to cast their skills. So we finally get to see what the indecision stacks have here. They just lower the accuracy and insight of the enemies. And the first engraving skill here sounds pretty powerful if they will not be able to cast their skills if they have 3 stacks of indecision, which sounds powerful here. So let's move on to the final skill here. It is called Dragon's Defense. This is a passive ability. With each hit of damage, Cassius permanently increases his healing received by 1 point up to 30 points max and boosts his max health by 1% up to 30% max. With the level 2, with each hit of damage, Cassius permanently increases his healing received by 2 points up to 60 points max and boosts his max health by 2% up to 60% max. With the level 3, when taking damage, if Cassius' max health exceeds that of the enemy dealing damage, excess health worth 1% of the enemy's max health results in an additional 1% damage reduction up to 60% max. And then we have the second engraving skill. When Cassius takes damage, he triggers Dragon's Might, dealing Dragon Speak damage for 20% of his max health to the enemy who inflicted the damage and stunning them for 2 seconds. This effect can only be triggered once within 4 seconds. So giving Cassius healing and also boosting his max health, and it looks like it's going to boost his healing and max health quite a bit here, especially with the level 2 ability. It can also give Cassius some damage reduction up to 60% max damage reduction, and it looks like the skill can also do some damage here with the Dragon Speak damage, and it can also do some crowd control as well. So overall, quite a bit of buffs for Cassius and the allies as well as some debuffs for the enemies. Let's go ahead and look at the signature item. So unlocking the signature item, for every surviving allied hero on the battlefield, Cassius gains 3% damage reduction. For the plus 10, for every surviving allied hero on the battlefield, Cassius gains 5% damage reduction. For the plus 20, increases Cassius's normal attack range, dealing damage for 2% of Cassius's max health. The plus 30 increases Cassius's normal attack range, dealing damage for 4% of Cassius's max health. And then the plus 40 increases damage dealt to enemies inflicted with indecision by 40%. If it's Dragon Speak damage, the effect is amplified to 80%. The one that I like the most here is the plus 40, increasing this damage inflicted by to enemies inflicted by indecision. That is quite a bit of a damage increase here. I feel like the rest of the signature item though could be better. It all depends on whether your allies survive for a long time, especially with the plus 10 signature item and also unlocking the signature item here. That damage reduction relies on the allied heroes surviving. So overall, I feel like the signature item could be a little bit better, but let's go ahead and look at the furniture. So for the 3 of 3 furniture, when the equilibrium ends, allies within the area immediately gain 200 energy and 20 haste points for 3 seconds. And the 9 of 9 furniture, enemies within range of the equilibrium area have their haste negated and their energy recovery rate reduced by 70 points. Whenever I see allies gaining haste and enemies losing haste, I get pretty happy because haste is very important to the game. So seeing these buffs and debuffs to the allies and the enemies, it looks pretty good here with the furniture. So overall, especially because the primary role for Cassius here is a tank, I was expecting to see some shields and maybe even some more damage reduction to the allied heroes. Especially with the signature item, especially wanting your allied heroes to survive, I was expecting just some more of that tanking ability from Cassius, but I feel like we've seen mostly just buffs and debuffs for the allied heroes and the enemy heroes. But overall, I think it will take some testing to see whether Cassius will be beneficial for your teams. And if you like this video, then make sure to click the like button. Also subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video from me. And also comment what do you think about Cassius. And thanks for watching.